why do we start with the Greeks? Okay, why the Greeks? 'Cause we look at 40,000 years of mankind, modern man. So when I say 40,000 years, what I'm trying to suggest here is something you might have learned in a history class. Roughly about 40,000 years ago, we see that man is no longer being a hunter and gatherer and is starting then to domesticate animals and plants. From there, about 10,000 years ago, what we start to see is the beginning part of some of the great civilizations. So where modern day Iraq is, was the Tigris and Euphrates River, the Fertile Crescent many times we call that, and what we start to see as human beings. Most of you that have had world civilization class, what you're also pretty much aware of is that before the Greeks, there was the Egyptians. So the question that we have to ask ourselves is, when we look at this concept of philosophy, when we start a philosophy class, why do we start with the Greeks? What was in Greek culture that wasn't in these earlier cultures?
Free time.
Free time. So what I tried to suggest last class then is why the Greeks is a combination of a couple reasons. The first, I would argue, is that they were a leisure society. And so when I suggested a leisure society much like yourselves, okay, when I say much like yourselves, I realize that excuse me, many of you are working adults, and in addition to this class, you're working 20, 30, 40 hours. And so sometimes reading, when I ask you to read, for example, at least 3 hours a week, it seems like a lot. And it's because of scheduling, I would argue. The point that I'm trying to get at is what you're not doing right now, okay, is tilling, right? You're not harvesting, okay? If you were, in a sense, working, and when I say working, I mean really working, we probably wouldn't have as much time. When I say really working, I'm talking about physical labor. We wouldn't really have as much time to do what you're doing right now, because of why? Yeah, because you'd be on the time. What about your free time? You'd be resting, right? You'd be too tired to think about it. You'd be too tired to think about it. So one of the things we see, the good fortune for the Greeks, is that they had other people to do their jobs for them. So someone else could actually plow the fields, harvest, right? And they have somewhat of a leisure society to sit around and think. Now, secondly, which is important for ethics, is that Greece, and where it's located, if you can think of it in a map, it's located in the Mediterranean, right? And where then Athens was at the time is the meeting of three continents. So we have, in a sense, Africa, Asia, and Europe all coming together, all converging. And because of that, then, what else is happening? Why all of a sudden does philosophy, in particular ethics, start to arise? Diversity, awesome. We start to see the concept of diversity of culture.